All right. Sure don't have any people getting on here. Guess I'm just not that popular. Oh, we have somebody. Oh, two people now. Make yourselves known. I am basically getting on here. Hey Noah, I'm basically getting on here for about an hour in case anybody wants to talk or ask questions about court, anarchism, voluntarism, current state of things, whatever, reality. So if you have any questions that you want me to go off about, then go ahead and ask. I'm not really used to live streaming, but figured I'd get on here and see what happens. So, hi, sun shower or sun shower, sun shower or shower. Oh, one person left already. They don't have to be serious. You can ask any question right now. There's just two of you, so. Coffee. Yep, so this is just kind of a chat over coffee. I am going to be on here till approximately 9 o'clock Pacific time, assuming that people actually get on here and get me to talk about something. So I don't have a topic or anything. I just wanted to experiment. Any open cases? Technically, my situation with the airport is on appeal right now, and the state has already conceded to dropping one of the charges. So I believe, yep, the TSA thing. I suspect that they will also drop the other charge or overturn the other charge. Hell yeah. Yeah, I received the state's response, and it was basically, yeah, we concede to your argument regarding the interfering with the peace officer charge. So that was good. I do have some. I am in negotiations with Oxnard. Okay, I'm on Discord right now, but I'm going to get on here. I have questions or clarifications. I'm going to try to grab everyone else. Oh, sweet. Okay, can you explain why that video for Robbie was taken off? I saw it, then the next day it was gone. Hey, Ginger. Good to see you, man. What video are you referring to? I'm wondering if it was one that I took down or if somebody else took it down or what. I guess while I wait, I'll say that I'm in negotiations with Oxnard, the city of Oxnard, regarding the video and the what they would consider an unlawful detention, what I would consider assault and battery. I'm currently negotiating on behalf of myself, and I have a couple of clients, possibly more clients in the future regarding Oxnard, because it seems as though that city is rather corrupt. This is kind of weird for me, guys. I'm not used to, you know, just doing this. Glad to see one of the charges drop. Good wishes. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, technically it's not dropped yet, but the state concedes the argument, so it will be. Hey, William. Yeah, so for people who are just coming in, I'm just basically answering questions. It was like a movie showing the evils of... I saw it, which is how I found you. Oh, was it the Blue Evil music video? That's been taken down. I'll have to look and see if any of my videos have been taken down unknowingly. I'm surprised that I haven't been attacked by YouTube yet or had weird things happen yet, but they just haven't bothered me for some reason. Probably because I'm just me. You still giving Oregon just us system hell? As much as I possibly can. We need you on Discord. So here in Oregon now, like here in Portland, like they're just leaving me alone. Police won't talk to me. They don't stop me from smoking pot on the streets when I'm walking around outside after midnight. They just don't bother me at all, so that's kind of nice. Sounds like Discord is wanting me to go over there, but I'm not going to go over there right now just because I want to sort of just experiment with this live streaming thing. I know that people probably need help with some questions or obtaining clarification on things, but I just want to see how this goes, just because I'm not used to doing this. So, and I realize that more and more people are wanting questions answered. So feel free to ask anything. I don't care what the question is. I will be your oracle right now, I guess. Or you can just sit here and look at my pretty face. Ginger, how have you been? I post Discord info as well. We love your smiling. Are you a boxer or a brief guy? What did you have to do to get the police to leave you alone? I've been watching your videos and you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Lost Soul. I'm not going to answer your question, Ginger. Maybe some other time. So basically, police have been leaving me alone, I think. I mean, this is just speculation, but I think, and hey, Ethics, good to see you, by the way. I think it's because of all the hell that I gave them in their courtroom, and they realized that it just made them, it just ended up going to appeal, which is probably going to be overturned anyway, so why bother me again? Because it'll just be more of the same thing, and this time I'll just be better at it. And I don't think they want that. Yeah, embarrass police publicly, and they have a tendency to just leave you alone. Yeah, they scowl at you or laugh at you. They try to get under your skin a little bit, but generally they've just left me alone. They won't talk to me once they figure out how I'm using words, so. We're coming over. Who's coming over? You're coming over to my house? J Mac Attack? Or is that people are coming over from Discord? Oh, geez. Okay. I mean... yeah. So, yeah, I've just been recognizing that things are wrong with the current so-called system in place, and I think there are ways to effectively challenge it, and I don't think it's just one system. I think it's multiple systems. Yeah, they are scared to have a conversation once they realize that I'm asking them questions that will embarrass them and show the fact that they don't have evidence of anything. They don't want to talk anymore. You know, it's kind of like they always say, we'll use your words against you. Well, I say the same thing to them. How does one verbally converse with you? With me? If you want to verbally converse with me, then send an email, or send me a message on Skype or Discord, or send me an email to acuriousintellect@gmail.com, and I'll arrange. Oh, right now I couldn't verbally communicate except through here. It showed you arguing with them in the airport and showed people being evicted from their homes. Yeah, I know that. I vote Robbie uses only in sing song. I want that court audio. Yeah, I'll just sing at court. Yeah, I'm not the best with technology, so all I'm doing is I'm just on my phone right now, and there's no real way to have a verbal conversation with me unless I got off of here. And I'm not getting off of here until about 9 o'clock my time, so about 43 minutes. You know, unless it just goes completely dead and you guys get so bored that you all leave and stop asking questions. Hey, W Mac, 72,000. Okay, so somebody... Okay, cool. Somebody just tried to call me for some reason. My commentary that I did last night, that would be on Discord. I don't really know where you'd listen to that. I suspect that if you know who Kevin is and can talk to him, he can probably get you a copy. It was probably recorded. I hope so, for Appendra's sake. Yeah, that's another thing that apparently I'm decent at, is if you have court audio and you want to know kind of what could I have done better, what tactics was the judge using against me, how could I have been more effective, I can dissect it for you. Yeah, hit up Kevin for sure. I hit up Kevin whenever I need a recording of something that has been said. If I bring a table, 2 chairs, and a sign reading confessions, wait for cops to show up, record it all. Oh yeah, somebody asked what is a defendant. So, I don't know. A defendant, I think, would depend upon what legal system you are being a defendant in. I think that each legal system that uses that legalese term defendant would have its own legal definition of it. I don't play those games. I don't participate voluntarily in those games, so I can't really define defendant. 2 suggestions, if you will. 2 tutorial classes. 1, did the judge answer my question? 2, autopsy of actual court recordings. Yeah. Yeah, the did a judge answer my question is interesting because it seems like it would be easy to know if a judge answers your question. But judges are such skilled manipulators that they will use your lack of understanding, they'll use all sorts of like physical or physiological manipulations on you. And it's like, you may not know if a judge is actually answering your question. He may use so many words that you don't know. And getting good at knowing, did a judge answer my question, is key. And that's why it's good to ask yes or no questions, because it makes it very clear if a judge or if anybody answered your question. If you ask yes or no, then they can say yes or no, and then they can put whatever explanation after that that they want, but at least you have the yes or no so that you know that they answered the question. And that's pretty important. People get by without answering questions quite a bit. You see it on TV, you see politicians doing it, your friends might do it. How do you respond to, it's part of our obligations as citizens by paying taxes, blah, blah, blah. We also have an obligation to flood. The obligation is to admit the power. Okay, so if they say that you are a citizen with obligations, do you have any factual evidence that would show that I'm a citizen? The word citizen is a legalese term that they are trying to claim that that definition applies to you. If you are challenging the very notion that the legal system applies to you in the first place, then how can they comfortably call you a citizen? They're trying to say, well, you're a citizen in the hopes that you won't challenge that, so that they can just assume that you're under the umbrella of their legal system. I saw the video on Big Nick, South Florida, accountable. I don't know. Big... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Offhand. Sometimes I just don't remember things right away. Unless you jar my memory. So, yeah. I'm just kind of playing around a little bit too. Well, here we go. Oh, cool. So now I'm able, because before, like, chat messages were disappearing after I read them, and now I can actually look at them. Hey, Stal, good to see you in here. Yeah, Ginger, I'm a little upset that you don't come into the rooms anymore, you know, do role play or anything. I miss having you around. You're very good at what you do, and yeah, so a citizen being someone who swore a duty of allegiance in exchange for a duty of protection. So even under the, you know, American legal system, whatever that is, their Supreme Court has said that there is no duty of protection. So therefore, there's nobody that exists alive right now who can swear allegiance in exchange for that duty of protection. Plus, in order for there to be a duty of allegiance in exchange for a duty of protection, everyone would have to be informed, and duress would not be present, so there wouldn't be, like, people threatening you with violence if you decide that you don't want to be a part of that, or if you don't want to do something that is not wrong to do. You know, if you just don't want to do something that they try to force you to do. Like, when duress is present, there can be no agreement. So the notion that a citizen can exist and that there can exist a duty of allegiance in exchange for a duty of protection against a violent state is illogical. It's just not possible. So it's delusional, because it can be disproven pretty easily. Yep. So we have 15 people. Wow. Right on. I feel so popular now. Yeah, infighting. Yeah, I've kind of tried to clean up some of that. It's a little tough because the trouble is when people are being effective at challenging and using the Socratic method to challenge the claims of, you know, a political organization, then it's in the best interest of that political organization to send trolls. Oh, wow, I am just now getting a bunch of messages. We're in Discord, no infighting, we draw, put your hand over your heart, and so that makes you sit. Right, yeah. They do not inform us, they force us to draw conclusions in their favor. Threats of rape never lead to lovemaking. That's true ethics. What's your favorite strategies for showing down a judge and his process when I'm trying to lay the foundation for jurisdiction clarifications? Slowing down a judge, hold on, I'm just gonna... Okay, so slowing down a judge. So if a judge is just... Oftentimes judges will speak and say like a million things all at once. Yeah, I'm sorry if my stream's lagging. It's I'm on Wi-Fi. It signal, but occasionally it's not. So a judge, you can have a judge slow down, and you can say, Judge, would you mind if you just give me a moment to clarify my thoughts, or to absorb what you just said? And usually the judge will. I haven't really seen a circumstance where they don't. You know, if you're asking for clarification and the judge goes on like a 3-minute rant about several different things, be listening very closely. Be listening very closely to every word that the judge says, because he may be trying to put things on the record in the hopes that you don't object to it or articulate your objection. So just be listening first off, and then after he does that, say, look, can we just talk about one thing at a time? You slipped in like 5 different things in that 3-minute rant, and I need to address one thing at a time. Just pointing out the tactic that the judge is using on the record, and so that hopefully he'll stop using it, because if he continues to use that tactic, then it's just going to make him look worse. Am I not trained and forced to pledge to a flag? Yeah, you are trained. I mean, are you forced? I don't know. Really, listening is difficult. It can be overwhelming. Yes. It can be very overwhelming. There is a lot that a judge will try to... thank you, William. Judges will put things on the record, and you may not even notice it. And especially if your ear isn't tuned to hearing, like, legalese. $156. What's that? If you're not tuned to hearing what a judge is doing, then you're gonna miss out on stuff. So you have to get used to active listening, practice active listening just in normal everyday conversation. The mind has a tendency to want to tune out and think about things that it feels are more important than what a person is saying, which is why a lot of people stop listening. Yeah, practice, practice, practice. So, oh, hell yeah. Thumbs up. So, you know, the mind has a tendency to tune out what people are saying. And how can I become more attuned to listening to when a judge is falsely placing items on the record? I don't know. You really just have to practice. You just have to practice, like, having conversations with people. Don't allow your mind to wander. Just listen to every word that they say, and then think about their reason for saying it. So sometimes you might be wrong, you know. Sometimes you walk up to a pretty girl and she says, "Oh, wow, you're a hot stud." This is what they say to me all the time. And then I find out that they were just being sarcastic. So at first I believed them, found out that, well, thought they were being truthful. But then as I practiced and started to break down why they were saying what they were saying, I found out that they were just being sarcastic. And that was a joke, by the way, but it was also kind of how you learn things. So judges, this is why I think I want to do more on breaking down and dissecting hearings. Oh yeah, they do that on purpose, JMac. There's a small opportunity or window of opportunity to reply to the judge. They do that on purpose because they want to silence you. And what you'll find out is they let you talk as much as you want if what you are saying helps them or hurts you, or sometimes they'll let you talk if it's neutral. But the moment you start to get into effective exchange, something that makes them look bad or you look good or helps you in some way, they try to shut you up. And it's funny because people get a lot of confidence when they can talk. And they're like, "Oh, wow, I'll just keep talking. Wow, the judge is just letting me talk, and I'll just keep on talking, and I'm not going to stop." But if that's happening, then you should probably stop talking, because you're probably saying something that is hurting you, and you don't even know it. But if a judge, if you're saying something effective, and a judge tries to silence you, JMac, I would love to hear it. But if a judge tries to silence you, then that means that you are in ground that you should stay on. And it's a natural tendency to be like, "Oh, the judge just interrupted me and made me feel foolish for saying that. I guess I won't talk about that anymore." But that's a tactic that they use to try to get you to stop being as effective as you can possibly be. Do you think sitting in on a court hearing, like, for hours just to get a sense? Oh yeah. Yeah. sitting in court and listening to judges and listening to them commit crimes against all of the innocent people who show up in front of them is extremely valuable. I haven't for a while, but I used to really enjoy going into court, sitting in, and collecting evidence against judges. You know, I just walk in with a pad of paper and a pen and pencil, and I sit down and write. I write notes on, oh, judge committed this crime against this person. You know, I'll write down the alleged defendant's name, the charge that they're accusing, and then write down like everything that the judge did wrong against that person, just so I can keep a record of it. It helps me to stay in practice of active listening. It helps me to find out what a judge's tendencies are. And it just helps. Now I have evidence that can be, you know, used against a judge. I can always go and get those recordings. Are you going to school to be a lawyer? No. No, I mean, I feel like for some people there may be a reason to go to school to be a lawyer. However, I would not recommend becoming an attorney. And I would also recommend don't go to these Ivy League colleges, because they're more interested in indoctrinating you rather than actually educating you. There is a direct correlation to effectiveness and willingness to do the work. Yeah, I mean, it is work. Learning how to apply pressure against judges and lawyers and all of that is hard work. You would be good. I thought that when I first saw your video. Thank you. I've begun to consider myself a bit of a lawyer. I have clients. Of course, people often hear that and they're like, oh no, he's claiming to be an attorney. I'm not an attorney. I see no reason to acquire a bar membership. I will help people as to the best of my ability, and I want to do a push to allow people to hire whoever they want to speak for them in a court, because there's no reason that people shouldn't be allowed to hire the people that they want to speak for them. And there's no reason that people should have to become wordsmiths in order to defend themselves or stay out of attack from a government agent. And Ivy League schools are very evil. Well, probably, yeah. They indoctrinate. They teach people how to obey. They don't teach you... I mean, sure, you learn some things that are worthwhile, but when you are combining things that are worthwhile with indoctrination, then you're obviously not as effective in education as you could be. So I would encourage people to not start to seek little magical pieces of paper from Ivy League schools that say, oh, this person is on our side. I would recommend that people stand up and start to challenge the notion that they should have to hire somebody who is licensed by the plaintiff. You know, whenever, if the plaintiff who is alleging that you have committed some crime happens to be something called State of Oregon, and the only people that you're allowed to hire to speak for you in court are people who are licensed by State of Oregon, that presents a bit of a problem. How can you ever receive a fair and meaningful hearing if the people who are speaking for you are employed or licensed by the person making the accusation against you? You can't. And oh yeah, I'll try to say, oh, it's checks and balances and blah, blah, blah. Well, if I were, like, I don't care what department you work for in Walmart, if I am filing a claim against Walmart, I am not going to then hire somebody else from a different department of Walmart to help me do that. Like, obviously that wouldn't be in my best interest. So why are they forcing us to? Is a good question, I think. I probably have about 23 more minutes, so K&A choice of counsel, yes. Assistance of counsel is more what I might consider myself. I could help counsel someone on how to be effective in court. Some dots on a map are going to be your accuser. It's funny that most of the time they cannot even define what a state is. Yeah, they won't, because any definition that they provide of what a state is can pretty easily be shown to be delusional. So why would they? Why would they offer up a definition that they know you're just going to disprove anyway? Do you know how the courts are defining rights? I've seen a lot of people claiming to have rights in chats. Oh yeah, people claim to have rights because for some reason they still believe that someone else can declare what rights they have. So they're still believing in this notion of one human has more of an ability to say what another human is allowed to do than they themselves. The email you put in, is that what I enter into PayPal for donation? Yes, it is. The meme McPherson at hotmail.com, I believe it is. I mean, I don't really, I hadn't really tried setting things up for donations much. I find that they could be helpful, but yeah, that's the best way right now. If a right is subject to the opinion of the cop, was it ever right to begin with? Okay, so yeah. So this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand about, like, constitutional rights, for example. If an agency, yeah, William Rand has placed an email in the chat where PayPal donations could be sent to if you wanted to help me buy coffee and bus fare and whatnot. So if an agency declares that the Constitution grants people rights and that the Constitution protects people's rights, then now what you've opened the door to is that same state agency's ability to withdraw those rights. So you know that freedom of speech thing that you're trying to claim that you have because of the Constitution? Well, thank you for claiming that you have that because of the Constitution, because we, being the interpreters of the Constitution and those who, you know, who advocate for it or use it, we are going to determine that the thing that you are saying should be freedom of speech is not protected by the Constitution. So really, constitutional rights is just a way to be able to withdraw those rights when it is most convenient for a state to do so, or for an entity to do so. So, oh yeah, oh thanks, Tom. So, yeah, like people who are claiming Constitution, they're just buying into the delusion. They're basically agreeing to slavery because they're saying, oh, the humans who wrote the Constitution and are supposed to protect it or support it are the ones who are over me, who have the right to tell me what rights I have and what rights I do not have. Wouldn't you now have the burden of proving God, Felix? That's a good point. So claiming that God gives us rights does sort of create this burden that, okay, well, who is God? Can you prove that God gave you rights? But whether, okay, one of those, oops, shoot. One of those guys says, but whether the Constitution really be one thing or another, this much is certain, that it has either authorized such a government as we have had, or it is powerless to prevent it. Yeah, those are Lysander Spooner's words. Very accurate. And, hey, Rika. I'm not sure why, like, when I first started figuring all this stuff out and seeing it, I thought that like, cop watchers were out there, like, you know, on, like, basically on the side of, like, what Lysander Spooner is saying, that, you know, the Constitution has no authority, the Constitution is just basically toilet paper with words on it, and it's being used to enforce slavery. And I thought, well, once these, because a lot of cop watchers, a lot of so-called auditors claim, like, constitutional rights, and I thought, well, all they have to do is be exposed to, you know, the proof that the Constitution doesn't apply to anyone, and then they'll just be like, oh, wow, I never thought of that, and they'll start to go the right way, right? But surprisingly, a lot of people reject it, and a lot of people who seem to me to be good cop watchers or could be effective are not willing to even have a conversation with me about the Constitution. It's like, that's just a little bit disingenuous. So it leads me to question their motives, who they work for, why they're doing what they're doing. So I try to open the door for communication, because I either want to become more enlightened, or I want to help somebody else become more enlightened, or a combination of the two. But when people just reject the notion of having a conversation, it kind of makes it difficult. Tom asks, is this a regular thing, as in live stream? I may try to make it a little more regular. I am fairly new to this. Like, I've done it, I guess, a couple other times a long time ago, but I'm a little shy, and I'm working on that. It's taken me a while to realize that people actually want to see words come out of my face. So I'm just giving it a shot right now, and then we'll see what ends up happening later. JMax says, third tutorial suggestion, a complete list of possible judge and prosecutor statements and our responses to them. Quiz at the end. Yeah, and it's... okay, thank you, Rika. I'll do this more often, I'm sure. That just does not make sense. Being a cop watcher, then deny the Constitution. Well, alright, so I think you're saying On Fire for God Almighty says that just does not make sense. Being a cop watcher, then deny the Constitution. I think that On Fire is saying, like, why would you be a cop watcher if you are going to deny the Constitution? And it's like, I know it seems like that. I know a lot of cop watchers are like, they're out there fighting for these so-called constitutional rights, but they're missing the point. They're missing the point that slavery is wrong. So I know that I can say what I want. I can express my ideas. I can, you know, words can come out of my mouth, and people should not stop me from saying them. If I'm not out causing harm to anyone, then nobody should stop me from saying it. However, if I go out there and say, the Constitution gives me that, now I'm basically saying, humans who have placed themselves in positions of power are entitled to enslave me and tell me that I have the right to say what I want. And that means that if those humans have the right to tell me that I can say what I want, then they can say, oh, well, this thing we don't want you to say, so we're going to say that's unconstitutional, or that's not a constitutionally protected sentence that you're saying there. So it's the belief in the Constitution that should be eliminated, because the Constitution is condoning slavery. So don't go out there and fight for your constitutional rights, because those rights don't exist unless you are claiming that humans have authority over you, which amounts to slavery. So if you're going to claim I am a slave, then go ahead and go fight for your constitutional rights. But if you're going to claim that I am a free human being, then you're going to want to quit believing that the Constitution is some instrument that somehow gives you rights or protects you in any way, because all it does is it allows other humans to enslave you. Bastard Chris says, the auditor's approach feeds the delusion that the mafia enforcers work for the people. A cop watcher can do so without feeding such delusions. Exactly. The people is an amorphous term. It's a term. It's ambiguous. It's designed to make people think that they are part of some group that all agrees to something. But unless I have agreed to something and stated my agreement to it, don't try to lump me in with the people. Auditors are about Constitution. Cop watchers are there for an objective record and accountability. Yeah, so I cop watch because then how do we stand up for freedom of speech or to remain silent? Okay, so people... All right, so people are... this is good. This is good discussion. So, On Fire for God Almighty first says, then how do we stand up for freedom of speech or to remain silent? Salaman says, really? The Constitution guarantees freedom of speech. Exactly how does that make someone a slave? So, one human, or a group of humans a long time ago, wrote stuff down on a piece of paper. And they said that this piece of paper is going to give everyone in this territory freedom of speech. Well, before that piece of paper, everyone already had freedom of speech, because nobody was stopping anybody from saying what they wanted to say. So the Constitution was written, and it supposedly gave rights to a group of people who already had the freedom to do everything that the Constitution claimed to be giving them rights to. So that group of people who wrote the Constitution and the group of people alive today who are supposedly, protectors of the Constitution or swore an oath to the Constitution, those people are now claiming to have authority over other humans to make legal determinations that they have freedom of speech. I don't know how to say your name, but I.S. Selman says, so, the Constitution is essentially a meaningless piece of writing. Yes, essentially. It's not meaningless in that it doesn't have consequences. It has, like Ginger says, it has meaning to the people who supposedly swore an oath to it. But those people are only inflicting violence upon us by claiming that it is that Constitution that gives me the right to say what I want. I have the right to say what I want by virtue that I am a human being who has the ability to speak words. And if I'm not causing harm to anyone, I believe in the non-aggression principle. I know it's pretty radical to consider that that humans should be free to do things as long as they're not causing harm. What do you know? So no human out there can say, well, this piece of paper is what grants you rights. No, it doesn't. I already had the freedom of speech. I have the freedom to say whatever I want. And if I give authority to another human to make a legal determination as to whether or not I had the freedom to say what I said, then that's slavery. Alright, so Isilman says, so, the freedoms in the Constitution are basically tools for oppression. How exactly does that work? So, let's say that I was walking down the street and I called someone a big doo-doo head. And that person happened to be the mother of a judge, and she became so upset that I dared call her a big doo-doo head that she went to her son and said, "Hey son, this guy, he calls himself Robbie, but he has this legal name, Robert Estabrook, and he called me a big doo-doo head, and I don't think that he should be allowed to call me that." Then now, judge can say, "Okay, Mom, thanks for that. I will go ahead and have a secret call to my friend, the district attorney, and see if they will file charges against him." So DA hears about what happened and files charges against me for calling this woman a doo-doo head. And now what they tell me, you have to go to court or else we will put you in a cage. We'll send men with guns and we will put you in a cage. And they drag me in front of this judge who, well, presumably it would probably be a different judge. But anyway, the judge is now in charge of having the authority to make a legal determination as to whether or not those words are allowed to come out of my face. That is oppression. Because once you decide that you have the right, Eiselman says, no charges could be filed against you for such a statement. You know that. You're fantasizing. Well, I'm using a fantasy example. But Bao, I don't know if you know about Bao, but he's currently being held in a cage for words that somebody else said about a judge. So it's not the words that are important in the example. What's important is how the oppression occurs. Because once somebody decides that they have the authority, don't use fantasy, use reality or real statements by real people. Okay, yelling fire in a fire theater. If I'm alone in a theater and I yell fire in a fire theater, and so it causes no reaction, and somebody hears about how I did that somehow, maybe they recorded it and listened to a recording later, and I caused no harm, I didn't do anything wrong, and yet the district attorney decides, oh, we want to punish this guy, so we'll go ahead and charge him for yelling fire in a fire theater. Now my freedom of speech has just been challenged. On fire for God Almighty. The Constitution was wrote to start to enslave people. Did the Founding Fathers... Oh, hold on a second. Did the Founding Fathers plan out the state of enslavement that we're going through right now? I don't know. I am aware that a banking cartel planned out the state of enslavement that we are going through right now. Right now, America is probably one of the most financially enslaved societies, if not the most financially enslaved society. Well, you can't determine that, Eiselman, he says. The fact is that such a statement would not lead to a prosecution. You can't determine that, because people are prosecuted for saying things all the time. I have a friend who's being prosecuted for recording in public. He recorded the words of a police officer, and they're claiming that's wiretapping. So, to record in public is sort of along the same lines as freedom of speech. What precisely do you mean we are enslaved by the financial system? Well, you're forced to use a certain currency called the dollar, and then you're threatened with violence if you do not use that dollar to give certain organizations money. If you are employed by somebody and they don't give you these USD Federal Reserve notes they call dollars, then they may get their business shut down. So people are being forced. I agree that in that example is probably not legal. So, Eiselman, this is a situation where I would say, okay, I dare you to have a verbal conversation with me. Because if you're going to talk about legal, what is legal and what is not, I'm going to ask you what legal system you are talking about. So this is, hold on one second. Oh, shoot. Love the vids where bird is the word guy flipping off cops. Oh, man faces life in prison for paying employees in gold coin. Yeah, I mean, what the heck? Nobody should go to prison for paying their employees something that the employees have agreed with. I'm just trying to respond to your stream of consciousness discussion. Yeah, that's great. So the question I would have is, what legal system are you talking about? Because if you're talking about the American legal system that most people are talking about when they ask whether something is legal or not, then you're going to also have to show evidence that that legal system actually applies to anybody. And I think that you will have a hard time doing that because I've never met anybody who could. The only crime they care about is not asking permission. Well, it'd be the Anglo-American... You say the Anglo-American system, okay? And if you're claiming that there is one Anglo-American system, and I suspect I know which one you're talking about, then you're going to also have to be able to show evidence that that legal system applies to anyone. Because, again, unless you believe in slavery and believe that other humans have the right to order you around and tell you to do things against your will and threaten you with violence if you don't do the things that they want you to, then then you're going to have a hard time showing that the legal system applies to anyone. So you either agree with slavery or you agree with freedom. And if you agree with freedom, then you're no longer concerned with what is legal unless you have signed up to be a part of that legal system. Probably Ralph says, I love the video you did where you tell a cop you don't like gang activity in your neighborhood. That was the best. Yeah, and he was like, he didn't know what to do to that. He just left. It's pretty funny. What time is it? Ah, shit. I pretty much have to leave now. Unfortunately, this is getting kind of fun, but yeah, he was like, what gang? Do you need more? I mean, he knew. He's like, do you need more patrols in this neighborhood? I'm like, no. Are you serious right now? I think is what I said to him. Made him leave pretty quick. So, yeah, Salaman, I like that you're in here asking these things and saying these things. I would like to have more discussion with you, and I would like to possibly... Okay, so all right, hold on, guys. He says, well, I believe in a system of laws. They are imperfect, but we live in a society of ordered liberty, not individual anarchy. You believe in a system of laws. I would argue that you're going to have a hard time defending that you even believe in a system of laws, because I think that the system you're referring to is made up only of statutes and codes, not laws. Laws are descriptive. Laws are a descriptive term of something that humans are incapable of preventing. So to call statutes and codes laws is sort of misleading. Oh, I do believe in it. Statutes and codes are laws. Okay, so if you're going to believe that statutes and codes are laws, so now at least we have a definition for what you call laws. I don't know why you would call them laws and not statutes and codes. But so then the question becomes, so what evidence do you have that any of those statutes or codes apply to me? Or even to you? And what evidence exists? Like, point out one single statute that applies to me, and then prove that it applies to me. And once you can do that, then I might be inclined to agree with you. But if you can't do that, then there's a problem with what you're saying. And that's what I'm pointing to, is that problem. So I did want to address that they are imperfect, but we live in a society of ordered liberty. Liberty is freedom. That's the definition of liberty. Ordered liberty, I don't know what you mean by ordered. Liberty, freedom would be the reasonable assumption that I can do whatever I want as long as I'm not harming anyone, and also that nobody is going to harm me or aggress against me. If under this system that you're talking about, they are trying to say that these codes apply to you and I'm going to apply them to you without evidence, and I'm going to put you in a cage because you were caught doing this thing that, I know you weren't harming anybody, but you were caught doing this thing that we forbid. So we're going to go ahead and put you in a cage. That's not liberty. That's called oppression. That's called tyranny. And we actually do live in a system of individual anarchy. Even if you read their so-called laws, you will see that they're all written as though the people who are bound by these rules actually have agreed to it. We know that nobody has actually agreed to it, and that police officers and whatnot are just forcing people to do things against their will. What is the difference between a law and a right? A right is just something that humans are saying that you have the right to do something. A law is a descriptive term of something that no human is capable of stopping. For example, some refer to a law of gravity, or I don't really agree that it would be a law of gravity. I believe that there are other factors involved, so it wouldn't, calling it, yeah, whatever. But there are laws out there like law of gender. Well, it is clear that you do not accept the validity of statutes enacted by the state legislature. Well, it's not about me accepting the validity. I'll accept the validity if you show me factual evidence. So once you show me factual evidence that those statutes apply to me, then I'll accept the validity of them. Before that, all you're doing is making a claim without evidence. So, and all I've ever asked anybody is, if you're going to claim that the statute applies to me, then can you please show me how? Can you please prove it? You know, it's this whole civil discourse, burden of proof kind of thing that even the courts claim that they, if I show you the statute, will you accept it? The statute is, you can show me the statute after you show me how it is that that statute applies to me. So the statute is a block of words. So first, before I even look at the block of words, show me, prove to me that that statute applies to me. Once I know that that statute applies to me, then I'll go ahead and read the block of words. Good night, Rika. I'm about to get off of here too. Aiselman, you ask a lot of great questions. I enjoy talking to you. I would actually really enjoy like having verbal discussion with you because I think it could be helpful. But yeah, for now, unfortunately, I have to go. So thanks, guys. I know we got like a big whooping 22 people in here. It's pretty good. So have a good night and thank you. Bye-bye.